Welcome to the Happy Homeschooler Podcast, a digital support group for everyone interested in a learning lifestyle. I'm your host, Holly.
I'm your co-host, Melody.
Well, Melody, today we're going to be talking about the struggles that homeschool veterans are facing heading into this new school year. But before we get into that, what have you been up to lately?
I've been outside working in the garden and doing some landscaping around the house.
Oh, I love landscaping.
This is the time of year we want to get things started in Texas, except that it's just so hot. I'm having to water the seeds that I planted and the small plants so much more often. But everything is still green and still alive, and my loofah sprouted, and that was exciting. And so a lot of landscaping and
we had some rain lately too, which
has
been helpful.
It's been really nice.
I don't really like it when all of a sudden 60-mile-an-hour winds and thunder and lightning pop up without warning, but I'll take the rain because it sure beats being in a drought.
Absolutely. And it's nice in the morning and in the early evening. And we were outside a little bit, probably more than usual for August.
Oh, yeah.
Just because everybody's tired of being in the house.
Sure enough. Yeah, we've been going out in the evening to our local park. My son's riding his bike, and I'm running and walking behind him because, he's going super fast. And we're out getting exercise, and we're starting to see some of the same people or the same little dogs being walked. And it's really good for your mental and physical well-being. Just get out and enjoy the beautiful weather, the beautiful surroundings. So I think that's
been a good mental break.
Yeah, it really is. I've been working on my garden as well, and I wasn't going to do a fall garden, but when I was outside recently, I decided, you know what, I really do want to have those fresh fruits and vegetables to bring in and cook up in the evenings. It's something just really satisfying about bringing something in from the garden and then cooking it and eating it, or eating it out of hand. Sometimes tomatoes don't even get in the house.
They're not making it into the house. I went outside yesterday morning. My husband was out there eating them off the vine. And so I was like, it's good. It's a good snack. Mm-hmm. But I'm definitely going to plant more. So we'll have more in the house to eat in our salads. But I'd like to plant a few more things than what I have out there now. I didn't plant very much in the spring. There was too much going on. I didn't want a lot to have to water all through the summer.
Right.
So I only have a few things, but it sure has been nice. And they taste so good.
They do. We have grapes this year. And we have, I don't know what variety they are, but we discovered that we hadn't been leaving them to ripen long enough because of the couple days of rain. I didn't go out to the garden. And then when I did, there were some very deep purple grapes, and they were so good. And so now I just have to keep myself from picking them too early. Yeah, gardening is good for your brain, good for your body, and those are the kinds of things I like to focus on. Speaking of focus, we're going to be talking about veteran homeschoolers and the struggles they're facing and how they can focus on this new school year. So I think we'll go ahead and get into that. As much as we could talk about gardening all day long, let's go ahead and explore the situation that veteran homeschoolers are under this school year.
It's a little different this year than most years. Many people are doing the same things that you plan for the school year over the summer, but there's a new element with the pandemic going on, just a different layer of things to think about. People have some different things to take into account when they're making their plans.
Yeah,
not
circumstances are different.
That was before.
Yeah, normally at this point of the year, I would be putting on my calendar co-op type things or field trip type things, and I don't have any of those. I have seen that some homeschoolers on different groups are setting up co-ops. I'm just not sure how that's going to look. Additionally, I think that with the influx of new homeschoolers, we see new homeschoolers every year.
We do.
But this year, with people who've decided to homeschool because they don't feel good about sending their kid to public school, there are just so many more, and they need help. And veteran homeschoolers want to help. We really want to help. But we're also under a lot of stress because we've all been under that same pandemic stress, that worry. How are things going to go? That uncertainty. Maybe your work situation changed. Maybe you are not seeing people you used to see. So we all have that added burden on top of us. And I think what it's done for a lot of veteran homeschoolers is it's given us a kind of fatigue where we just don't feel like we have that wellspring of encouragement that we can offer. And, it's kind of like when you are flying on a plane And they always tell you, if the oxygen mask comes down, you need to put yours on first if you're traveling with someone who might need help.
Right.
I think that veteran homeschoolers are in that kind of situation where we want to help other people, but we are also having some struggles. Have you been hearing that from any homeschoolers you know?
A little bit. A lot of people are finding they're trying to get their own household situated.
Right.
They don't have any extra to extend to someone else, or they feel pulled in too many directions. So it's not, they're helping 1 or 2 people, which is good, instead of trying to help 10 or 20. Right.
Yeah, I think that, and I know for me, having been a homeschooler since 1993, and really since about 1999, being very involved in mentoring new homeschoolers. This year is the first year where I feel like, oh, it's so much. And I'm not normally like that. And I started thinking to myself, why do I feel this way? And I had heard the term compassion fatigue. And that really is a term that's used more for people who have been helping people who've experienced trauma, or people who've experienced trauma themselves. Okay. But I think that in some ways, that's what we're feeling as veteran homeschoolers, where we are just so overburdened with what we are already having to deal with, that for some of us, it's been hard to draw on those reserves to give out. And what do they always say? Like, fill up your cup right before you pour it out. So I think a lot of us, we just kept trying to keep going, right?
We did. And because we thought who knew how long this could go on?
And still going.
And so people kept pushing through, and then that might be part of it. We're used to that nurturing aspect of getting together with other people, and you build one another up. And that little aspect disappeared out of our lives. We had to find new ways to take care of some of those emotional needs. Right. Or just, fellowship with other people.
Right. I know for myself, and I'm sure it's the same for a bunch of other people, is that they were so focused on making sure their children were good, right? I didn't want my son to be unnecessarily worried and overwrought about the situation. So I worked really hard to spend more time with him, to do more fun things, to keep his world safe and secure. And I think in that process, which is what all parents want to do, but in that process, I think I neglected to meet some of my own needs. Right. And then, I work from home, so I spent a lot more time with him, and then that meant I had to take my work and put it off till like the wee hours or the late hours. And I think a lot of homeschool parents, veteran homeschoolers, probably went into that same kind of mode. And a lot of homeschoolers are working as well as homeschooling. It's really changed since you and I got started.
Quite a bit. Almost everyone I know has some small or large side gig, something going on to bring in some income. They're working from home, working on the side to supplement their income so that they can do some of these other fun activities. And then everyone is busy.
So much going on. Yeah. Well, yeah, if you think about it, even since the pandemic started, if you're home more, so you're cooking more. A lot of restaurants were closed. I know some people who really love to eat at restaurants, but they weren't able to do that for a while. So, the daily life got more complicated at home. Some of the options that we had available to ease some of the stress were no longer available, right?
Right.
Now, for us, I cook a lot, but a lot of people don't like to cook, and having meals out was a big part of their social life. So, we added a lot of things back into our home life that maybe we could have delegated before. So, I think that added into it.
That's another aspect.
Yeah. So I think if you're a veteran homeschooler and you're not sure if you've been having compassion fatigue or just, additional stress, you need to kind of take stock and find out, do you feel more irritated than usual about things? Do you feel more emotional than usual about things? That kind of points to some underlying stress. I know for me, one time I went to the post office. I go to the post office not frequently, but maybe a couple times a month to mail packages for one of my clients. And I had gone like 2 weeks before. And then the next time I went, they had plastic up everywhere, and it had changed in those different. 2 weeks, mm-hmm. right? And I walked in, and it was just like a really slap in the face, because again, I work from home, and we can stay home a lot. Mm-hmm. And I left there, and I had to go over to the library to drop off books. And behind the library, they have a butterfly garden, and there was nobody there, so I went back there and sat, and I just started crying because it was just like so overwhelming. And I think, we maybe kind of push that aside.
We do. As parents, we do that all the time. In Charlotte Mason circles, we often talk about mother culture, which mm-hmm. is the basic idea of taking care of those needs that you have as a parent, and make sure that, yes, you're pouring out to your family all the time, but you need to have something that nourishes you and something that strengthens you. And for some of us, it might be a prayer life or some spiritual time in the Bible or whatever, and other things like gardening. We mentioned things that you do that fill your cup, mm-hmm. so you can pour out to your family.
Yeah, and there are a lot of dads who are homeschooling now, right. And whoever you are that you're doing the homeschooling, you're running the house, you really have to be sure that you are doing things to take care of yourself, that you have some quiet time where you can just read a book or think your own thoughts. You need to get some exercise on a regular basis, mm-hmm. because that really does, my goodness, moving your body is good for your brain.
Clear the cobwebs.
Mm-hmm. And try to eat well. One of the worst things we can do for ourselves is to go to those comfort foods.
Oh my goodness.
Because they only provide a little bit of comfort. And then, I've heard people talk about the quarantine 15.
I haven't heard that, but I know some people complaining about being fluffy. So
yeah. So the comfort foods only offer a little bit of comfort, but really, if we eat well, it's like a chair, a three-legged stool, right? We've got mm-hmm. mental, we've got physical, and we've got emotional. And if we get those things pretty well under control, we'll have the reserves to deal with things. That's right. Yeah.
Keep it all in balance so you can keep going.
Mm-hmm. I think so. So if you feel like things are too overwhelming, and you're feeling too emotional, too irritated, way beyond usual, it's really a good idea to acknowledge that and then try to figure out ways you can help yourself so that you can help another homeschooler or two, so that you can get yourself ready for a really great, though very different, school year. We're going to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsor. When we return, we'll talk more about how veteran homeschoolers can survive and thrive under this current situation.
Our podcast today is sponsored by Transcript Maker. It's an online service that allows you to create professional high school transcripts in the comfort of your own home. I think it's really one of those ways that we can help ourselves during this time to delegate a task to some other program like Transcript Maker.
Oh yeah, it will definitely help with that feeling of overwhelm when you're looking at credits that your high schooler got and you're trying to think, how do I turn this into a transcript? I'm not a professional educator. No worries. Transcript Maker has it ready for you.
That's true. You don't have to keep up. You don't have to make a spreadsheet. You don't have to mess with Excel and sums and all that stuff. That you don't have to calculate that GPA or weighted GPA. The app will do it for you. And I mentioned it to someone the other day who was brand new, trying to figure out how to record this coming year, mm-hmm. because she expects her child to go back into the public school at some point. Sure. And so it was so nice to be able to say, go and check out the free trial.
14-day free trial is so generous.
And that is available at www.transcriptmaker.com.
Transcript Maker, simply better transcripts. All right, well, let's get more into our discussion of how to deal with this upcoming school year for homeschool veterans who are scratching their heads, trying to figure out how to do everything they've always done with this different set of circumstances the pandemic has created.
All right. Did you have some ideas to get us started?
Well, you know what? So I'm actually in the middle of planning for our school year. We need to get school started here pretty soon. And normally I'd be signing up for field trips and signing up for park days or something, and I really haven't seen anything. So one thing I did, I'm working on getting started, is I'm starting a Scholastic book club for the homeschoolers in our county, on our county Facebook group.
Oh, what a good idea.
Yeah, you can set up a group as a homeschooler, and it's really nice now because you don't have to have any paper flyers. You send all the flyers by email. The people place their orders online. It is all delivered to you, whoever you are as the coordinator. And then I'm just going to package up everybody's order, and they'll do front porch pickup. So, and then you earn books. For the person who's the coordinator earns books. And whatever books that I earn, I'm planning to donate to maybe Children's Hospital or some other worthy charity that could use books for children.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun, and I think it's something that public school does all the time, but it's something that homeschoolers can do. So I'm looking for ways that we can have something that we look forward to, that's exciting and engaging, and also to keep us safe. And I really want to say at the beginning of this that any ideas that we have, these are our ideas based on the circumstances where we live. We're coming to you from Texas. So really follow the CDC guidelines and follow any of your local guidelines for how to get together safely.
Right. Just because it depends on where you live. In my community, 4-H is starting to sign up, and some of the soccer team or the soccer leagues are having sign-ups, and some things are starting to open back up again. But there are other places where that's not the case.
That's true. Yes. And I know for my family, we feel more comfortable getting together and doing things outside. So we've gone swimming with a couple friends. We've gone to some local parks. So I think that if I do any kind of field trip type things, I would be comfortable maybe going to a zoo or going to something open, nature center, something that's open, plenty of air circulation, plenty of opportunity to be together, but a little distant. So though I think that if we keep our focus on what we can do rather than what we can't do, that will certainly help us. Because I know if I focus on what I can't do, I can start to get sad, and I start to get, do you feel like that? Does that happen to you? Like your thoughts start to go?
I always focus on what I can do.
Yeah.
We're just really practiced at finding the silver lining, and so we're always looking for ways what we can do. Just like when let's say you start a new way of eating for your health, you're looking at what you can eat.
Right.
And don't worry about the stuff that you can't. So we're always looking for things we can do. And we have found, like I don't have any littles at home, but even I was watching the bird cam on a nest with the eaglets, and I was watching it, my husband was watching it, we would check in on that. So like there are a lot of virtual things that we can do that kind of take the place. If those places aren't open to go to the zoo or to the aquarium, you can take a virtual field trip and kind of you can incorporate some of those things. And then we're just finding ways to try some new things, since which is not a bad thing. Right.
I think that it makes you feel more excited when you do something new anyway. It kind of wears a new groove in your brain that gives you those happy endorphins. Yeah. Right. One of the things, so my son belongs to a virtual group called the Wild Explorers Club. And he can earn badges. He does certain activities and he earns a badge. It comes to him in the mail. One of the suggestions for one of his badges, and I don't remember which one it was to have a book club. Set up your own book club. Well, I did a little bit of digging around, and I'm going to see if he wants to do that this fall, because we can set up a book club and use a Zoom link to talk about the book. And I also found that Scholastic Book Club has some recommendations for children's book clubs, and so do some other, like bookstores, like I think Half Price Books or Barnes & Noble. I think if you go to their websites, they have some book club suggestions, like books you can read.
Fun. So do you read the book and get together on Zoom or some
other yeah. So
platform?
you would set up the club, then the members would come up with some books they're going to read, and then like maybe you read one book a month, and then you discuss that book. And then you can, I don't know, it just looks like a really fun idea.
Well, that'd be fun.
And then you can do something that's really fun, get your kids reading, which is homeschoolers. We're always about getting the kids reading. And then let them discuss the book. I think that would be really fun. And again, it'll be a way for kids to be connected, and yet we can keep our distance while we're trying to figure out this pandemic thing.
Well, that's true. And then that's also, when I was a kid, we had to write book reports.
Oh, yes.
But it'd be a lot more fun. Basically, you're just having a book report by telling somebody about it
exactly.
instead. So
yeah.
a real life person that you're talking about the book with would be a whole lot more fun.
Right. Another thing that I've done for my son, and he's really enjoyed it. Now, he's younger. So, of course, teenagers, they already know how to talk to each other by using all kinds of apps and things. But there's Messenger Kids.
Right.
And so I put Messenger Kids on my phone and on my tablet for him. And a couple of days ago, his friend called him. And he was so excited. And they chatted for about half an hour. And they showed each other their Lego creations. And that really did help to fill that need that he has. Because I don't know if I shared this before, but last month we went to one of his friends had a drive-by birthday party. And we had arranged to come a little bit later so we could stop and chat for a little while. Mm-hmm. And it just broke my heart when he said out the window to his little friend, "You know what? I'm really lonely." I mean, I just about cried. And I thought to myself, you know what? I've got to do a better job of providing him with social opportunities during this pandemic. Mm-hmm. And in March, when everything started closing, all of us were on the same page, right? Everything. We all had the rugs pulled out from under us.
We did.
Whether you were in public school, private school, homeschool, nobody was in your house was going to school. All of that it was a door slamming in your face.
Oh, right. All the events, weddings, everything, just shut right down. And,
right.
So then all of a sudden the things on your calendar,
they just vanished. And I think in that, and this leads back to the beginning of our podcast where we talked about the stress that people felt. So we were all just like, oh my goodness, let's try to survive. And we circled the wagons or whatever, right? And so now that this is going on, as long as it has been, we've got to find ways to thrive and meet the social needs that our kids have and the social needs that we have. And, that's a big part of homeschooling. I mean, I know that everybody, when you tell them you're homeschooling, they say, what about socialization? And that's a big part of homeschooling, is getting out and being with other people.
That's true.
Kids playing with kids at the park, and kids doing lessons together under parents' instruction in co-ops and field trips, things like that. A lot
of people are finding ways, or they have a group of people that they were close to before that they can continue to get together with. So maybe your social circle is not currently as large,
right?
But you still have someone that you are visiting with, or in person, not
right.
only.
What do they call it? Setting up a bubble. I think I read about where you
that could work. Yeah.
You decide. A couple of families will decide, okay, we're all of a like mindset about what kind of things we want to do, how we're going to interact with the world during this pandemic. And we're all going to just stick together, and this is the group.
Right.
So I've seen, like, where some neighborhoods, there'll be, like, 3 families whose kids play together, and they all agree. Like, say if somebody goes out of town, then for 2 weeks they wouldn't see anybody when they came back. Those kind of parameters. But, yeah, I mean, we've got to have that. We're social creatures.
Social people. And so people are figuring out ways to safely reconnect and make sure that they have somebody to talk to and visit with, not only online. You want some in person.
Yeah, I know that at the beginning I was really excited to be able to do some things online, and it allowed me to participate in things I hadn't been able to, like some things. I belong to a church, so some church classes that I wouldn't have gone to if I'd had to go to church to do it. But then after a while I started being like, I can't do another Zoom meeting. It's just too much, because it doesn't allow us to interact the same way that in-person interaction does. So then I got kind of burned out on it.
A little bit.
And so now I'm like, I don't want to do a bunch of Zoom meetings. So I think you're right. It is really important to figure out how to do these things, how to participate in clubs. Didn't you tell me somebody you knew was doing Girl Scouts online? No. Or they were having a virtual Girl Scout meeting.
Oh, but that could be a good idea. It was not me. It was somebody else.
Yeah, I don't remember who I was talking to. But yeah, their daughter is I guess their daughter's in Scouts, and they're trying to figure out how to.
Oh, I did see some. It might have been me. She's working on her badges, and they did some things online virtually, but then they did have to have some kind of a big meeting at the end.
Right.
Staying distant from each other, but right, ways for people to turn in their work.
Right. So, yeah, if you were going to join those groups, maybe they're still meeting in some form or fashion. Also, I know that a lot of homeschoolers would do things like the kids were taking dual enrollment classes at college. My youngest daughter did a lot of that, and so hopefully that's still continuing. Maybe it's all online. I don't know.
I don't know.
With a 7-year-old, I don't know. But
when the time comes, you'll find out.
Right.
But there are a lot of ways that people are finding to keep moving forward, moving the education forward. I think people are looking for other ways to hit all the checkpoints.
Right.
It's just looking a little bit different.
It is looking a little bit different.
It's not having to rethink all that. We are having some more time at home, and so families are starting to do some things that they didn't have time to do before, playing games and incorporating some of those kind of things. So people would tell me, I don't have time to play those games. We're just going to read a book. But now there's more time, and so they're kind of expanding those activities at home.
Yeah, that's another good point, is that if you do have to stay home more, if some of these options aren't open to you, then maybe pick a night that's stargazing night. Make it an event for your family. Get the blankets and lay out under the stars. Get an app and see what's in the sky. We did that recently. We were so excited because Jupiter and Saturn are showing up at night, and we were still trying to find the comet that we never got to see.
We never got to see it.
But yeah, make something into an event for your family if you can't go and do things, or if you don't feel comfortable going and doing things, so that when you look back, maybe what you think about is, man, that was hard, but we made it so much fun when we did this thing and that thing. Just swap out the attitude over it, and it'll give you fresh energy. And that's the thing is, we want to have energy and excitement about our homeschooling, and we want to be able to help other people. We've just got to put on our oxygen mask first, fill our cup first, right, and then we're ready to move forward with new energy.
Good ideas.
At this time in our podcast, we normally answer some questions. Melody, do we have any questions today?
Not today. So if you have homeschooling questions, please send them to us on Twitter @_homeschoolpod, or email us at happyhomeschoolpod@gmail.com.
Thank you for joining us today. Please let us know if these tips helped you or how your homeschool journey is looking this school year. I'm Holly.
I'm Melody.
Happy homeschooling. Hi, this is your host, Holly Williams Urbach. Thank you for listening to the Happy Homeschooler Podcast, a Transcript Maker Production. My co-host is Melody Gillum. This episode was produced by Matthew Bass and edited by Norah Williams. Our graphic design is by Pete Soloway, and our music is by the Great Pangolin. You can find her music on YouTube and Twitter at Kylie Wins. That's Kailey Wins. If you'd like to help our podcast grow, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or as always, tell people about us. We're going to take a short break to hear a word. Maybe not. Lord have mercy.
Yeah.